my knees. Oh, heart in hand, I was accused of being too young, but I'm not so young. Can't you understand that I think like a man? Still a young man, baby. Ooh, don't waste your time. No, 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 baby. Still a young man, baby. I'm not wasting my time. Don't waste your.
Hey guys, before we get started, I want to welcome our sister all the way from Riverside, Ceci Escano. Buenas tardes. And we have VP 760. Good afternoon. Another great episode. Thank you. And as they start coming in, we'll be giving them a quick shout out. But guys, man, I'll tell you, we also got our brother, man, all the way from Thailand. I don't know, you've heard me talk about him, Sal, before. Dim DeJanis, former correctional officer. He was actually open Pelican Bay. He worked, they call him Batman because he was like us. We were hard chargers on the streets. He was a hard charger in the Pinta, in the joint. And he also, when he retired, went to Afghanistan. Now he's in Thailand, and I believe it's 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. And he's always faithful to us, just like we're faithful to his outstanding show too. But guys, with that said, guys, we want to welcome you, Saul Ayala, a former detective, an outstanding legend with the Phoenix Police Department, and the legend of all legends, man, Bobby Arce from the Phoenix Police Department. And man, we're happy that you're with us. But guys, before we continue, Chalo, do you have any shout outs? If not, I have a request for a prayer for you. Do you have any shout outs, Chalo?
Shout outs for everybody that's working right now in this extreme heat. Keep hydrated, man. You know, keep hydrated, guys.
Exactly. How hot is it over there right now in Centro? Or
it says 109, feels like 117.
With la madre.
Ay, pues suya. Ya contigo, Sal, ¿cómo está el clima?
It says 104, but it's pretty humid. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, because of the monsoon, right?
Yeah. Probably not too much different from where Chalo is. Yeah. Probably about the same.
They get more moisture in Phoenix, bro.
Yeah,
we get some of that moisture, but not as bad. I mean, we'll get into like the 50-60% humidity while they're at 80-85.
Yeah.
And Bobby, are you close to Saul? Are you close to his house? So the weather's the same, or are you there? It's at a different place.
I'm out west. It's showing 106 right now where I'm looking at. So pretty much the same.
Yeah, we're the same.
Degrees. And Saul, with that bandana you got in the hat, hopefully the air conditioning is working, right? And the Pendleton with the long jacket.
You know what? It's good that we're Mexican. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to handle this. It feels like
without a doubt, brother.
Because we're Mexican.
Exactly.
That's right.
Feels like I'm ready to mow the lawn.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly. Hey, we'll talk about mowing the lawn. I'll tell you some stories about mowing the lawn in this weather. Hey, Chalo, but before we get started, listen, I like for you to say a quick prayer. Benny's mom, that's why Benny's not on the show tonight. Sean, Sean texted us earlier. He's not feeling well. I guess he had a really bad ear infection. He went to the doctor today. We're hoping that everything went well. Prayers for him. But Benny's mom is 92 years old. She's having a big heart procedure next week, but tomorrow they're going to put her under so they can put some cameras in to see if she's healthy enough for that big procedure next week, heart procedure. And I told Benny that we were going to say a prayer for her and for him. He's driving all the way from Temecula up to Bakersfield to go see her. So, Chalo, if you don't mind saying a quick prayer, I'd appreciate it for her.
Father Almighty, thank you for everything, for having us here together here. Father, thank you so much for dying for our sins. And all of us are sinners, God, but I know that you will take care of us. You promised us, and you died on the cross for us. What we do ask you, Father God, is to please bless the hands of the doctors that are going to be performing the procedure on Benny's mom tomorrow, and for next week too. We ask you just to keep her keep her safe. And if we know it's your will, we know that you can heal, and it's you that's healing through the hands of the doctors. And we ask you for Benny too, that he will have a safe trip going up and down to go see his mother. Keep him safe. And a quick prayer for our brother Sean, for his healing of his ear ache that he had. We ask you in this in your name, Lord Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Guys, it's June 30th, 1994. A legend, a hero, a man that, wore the DEA badge with honor, was slain by a Mexican drug dealer. We're not even going to call him a cartel member. Was slain. This next week, we're going to be honoring him here on our show. And you know what? Every year at this time, we're going to be honoring him. But this Sunday, June 30th, 2024, it'll be the 30-year anniversary of his death. And I'll tell you guys, I am personally honored to be able to fly out and go with you, Bobby, and with you, Saul, to the grave, smoke a cigar, have a shot of tequila, and just talk to him and say a prayer over him. Hopefully his family members will be there. But before we talk about Sunday's event, let's talk about today, about his life, about this legend, about this man who literally, we will, like I said, be honoring him every year. This week, we will be honoring him. But before we go on, guys, let's talk about his life. And Saul, I know you knew him personally. Bobby, I know both of you guys were best friends with him, got a chance to work with him. Tell us his life story. And either one of you can start off. And then as you guys are going today, we don't have a format. We're going with Ash Wednesday with no questions. You guys just talk. And as we go on with the show, if Chalo and I have any questions, we'll interrupt you a little bit. But today, like I said, I want it to be all about him. But before we do, we got Los Angeles Sheriff legend Ruben Nava. Good evening, gentlemen. Glad to be plugging in. Thank you, brother. He's Sal. He's the one that retired from the sheriff's department and is now a chaplain in East LA, where he retired from. God bless you.
Hey, real quick, and you know what? Congratulations to East LA station. They had their 100th year anniversary. I saw that Ruben was out there celebrating with his comrades, retired, and since he's out there, probably still being the chaplain over there. So they cumplieron 100 años, 100 years anniversary, man. East LA station.
That's beautiful, man.
So that's up to them. May God continue to bless them out there.
So, Phil, you started off. So, we'll start it off, man. Tell us about him. Who was he? Tell us some stories. And Bobby, both of you guys, we're honored to listen to his stories. Here we go.
Well, I have some ties with Richard that we didn't know about when we first met. He and I apparently lived in the same neighborhood in Tucson when we were children, and we went to the same grade school. I didn't remember him. But I always found that interesting that we were already hanging out in the same barrio when we were kids, and ended up working together when he came to Phoenix, to the Phoenix office of DEA. The first time I met Richard was at a buy bust. He was I believe he was going to be the money man, and this was one of the buy busts that was done by a mercenary informant. A guy that we all knew, worked with, a very good guy, and a guy who taught us a lot of stuff too. But the funny thing, the thing that sticks out about this first meeting was Richard and I took one guy into custody. In reality, we didn't take him into custody. When the bus came down, this guy was getting away, and the source ran him down in his vehicle and took him into custody. And we had to go take him from our source, who had this bad guy into custody. And that was the first time I met Richard. He was brand new here in the Phoenix office. I was, I wish I knew when it was, but it was probably in about, I don't know when he came here, but I think it was right around 1990, around there, as I know I still had pretty long hair at the time. But that was the first meeting I had with him. After that, we got to know each other, and of course, he helped out on a few deals that we did, a few buy busts. but Richard just became part of the landscape. We had a little getaway cantina that we used to all go to, and back in those days, it was a nice spot because there was nothing but narcos in there. DPS narcs, sheriff's narcs, Phoenix narcs, DEA people, all undercover, all, that was the kind of bar this place was. And Richard and his supervisor, we would go there on and off, oftentimes, and we got to know each other really well. Richard was just a vato suave, man. I don't know how else to describe him. Just a vato suave. Just a good guy, a funny guy, just a good guy to be around. I don't know. I don't know if Bobby can describe it better, but he was just one of those guys. Eventually, when he started to learn the business, he got some really good hits, and he the last case he and I worked together was on a guy they called Chon, who was part of the Cochiloco organization back. Cochiloco, one of the guys that was involved in the murders of Camarena, and the deal went bad. But that was the last case that we actually got to work. And then I left narcotics not too much after that, went to patrol, and he stayed on. And I think during that time was when he did a lot of stuff with Bobby. I don't know, Bobby can take over from there at that point.
Hey, Sal, before Bobby talks, gives us his life story, were you guys the same age growing up in the same neighborhood? Were you guys the same age, or was he older or you older?
He's a couple years older than I am. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He didn't look it. He looked young. He looked really young. I would have thought he was younger than me, but yeah, he was a little bit older. But yeah, we were same grade school, same area that we lived in. It was a big coincidence. The other coincidence was that his supervisor, the legend of all legends, Delbert Salazar, also went to that grade school, but I think it was in another century. I don't know when he was there.
It's when they had the one big classroom where everybody used to, all grades used to be there. Hey, so you mentioned him. So is it safe to say, or is it correct to say that he was a natural in what he did?
Yeah. He was one of those guys. Like it's hard to describe it, but he was one of those guys that just that picked it up. Was able to pick it up, do the job. I guess again it has to do a lot with our ethnicity. Where we all grew up in the Southwest. Our close attachment to Mexico. That type of thing, the knowledge of the culture and the people, and being able to just pasarla with people from Mexico. I think it was all part of that, and he was very good at what he did. But what I did, one of the things that I always remembered about Rich is that he wasn't one of the guys that talked. I don't think that he felt he was defined by the job. He always had other stuff to talk about. We had a lot of other stuff to talk about besides doing the job. He was a good guy, man. He was just vato loco too, man. He was fun. Yeah.
Hey, Sal, era Mexicano? Did he speak Spanish? Because I saw Fass. I've never seen that name. What nationality was he? Because I know he grew up in the barrio, so he was a Chicano at heart, but was he a Chicano in blood too?
I assumed he was. I don't know, unless Bobby knows
Bobby
something else.
Answer that.
I think the name is also, besides Fass, Faz, and I think I had heard that a lot of people, when they showed up in the U.S., they misspelled their name. I know certain guys that have weird spellings of Spanish surnames. It's like, hey, how did you get this? So it's like, well, my grandfather didn't know how to spell, and this is the way he spelled it. Because I think I talked to Richard's older brother, and I think the name initially was Fass, Faz, and somehow it turned into Fass.
Yeah.
That's what it turned into. But
So
yeah,
you,
he was.
so
was-
Bobby, do you think it was a Sass? And then they go,
Yes.
"Well, you can get to Fass."
Sus, exactly.
Bobby, and I don't know if you've ever met anybody that you met. They say, "Yeah, what's your last name?" Guaybera. ¿Cómo que Guaybera? Ibarra, cabrón. It wasn't one of those, right?
Well, growing up in the barrio, a lot of people like I got guys that like call me Arce, like Arce Cola.
Yeah.
And then later on they're like, "You think you're white?" It was like, you don't even know how to pronounce your own name, stupid. It's Arce, and my name is Arce. So it's like, but anyway, going to Richard, he came over. I was still in Arce, so he got there a little bit before 90. And when I was working in Arce, I remember there was other DEA agents they brought over. And I don't know if they did it with all, because they didn't do it with all, but they did it with a few, where they would bring them over and they would hang out with the Phoenix narcs. And we would take them out and just have them watch us do a street buy. We weren't doing big deals, just going out, buy some heroin, buy this. And I remember a lot of the guys that would come over would watch, but Richard wanted to do it. So he was actually making street buys with us immediately. And I remember that was like, because there were guys that would show up and they're like, "Hey, you want to give it a try?" And no, I'll just watch. Okay. Other agents that came through. Richard jumped right in and he was buying heroin with us. And so then there was a little bit of a break. I didn't see him for a while. And then we started doing, Saul mentioned Delbert Salazar, the legendary, like I said, the legend of all legends over DEA. When I still think as a young Phoenix narcotics detective, I had some of the senior guys I looked up to at Phoenix PD, but once they figured out that I could do some weight on some of these deals, they send me over and start working with DEA. So I like to joke and say Delbert Salazar was my padrino. He was like my godfather, because that's who I started working my DEA cases with. Well, then Delbert took off. He got TDY'd on Operation Leyenda. So he disappeared. He was gone. So that's when I really started working a lot with Fass. And we started doing a lot of deals. Now, they are not allowed to work like us with Phoenix. I could go hang out at a bar every day. I had buy money to go drink, shoot pool, bounce from bar to bar, the Paisa bars. DEA doesn't really have that flexibility. So what I would do, I would go in, meet the people, get someone that I thought, hey, this is a legit person, then bring Richard in. And I had heck, Saul, you know this, there were some Phoenix guys that I would hesitate bringing in to meet some Paisa drug dealer, because they would screw it all up. And I didn't have that fear with Richard.
There was another guy at DEA at the time that
what are you talking about?
It was dangerous. This
Yes.
guy, he was a full-blown Mexican too. I mean, but this vato was dangerous. He was a pendejo, man. And oh my God, I don't even. His name is just about to spill out of my mouth, but I won't say it.
He not only was he a pendejo, but he was an arrogant pendejo, probably, right?
Oh my
Yes,
God,
yes,
he was.
yes,
There was
Most
two of them over
pendejos
there.
are arrogant. Yes.
Those are more dangerous than just being pendejo, bro. I mean,
There
when
was
you're
two
an
of them
arrogant
over there.
pendejo,
There were two of them over there, and one of them was a boss.
Yeah.
But I was going to tell you, I was going to add about Delbert. He wasn't my padrino. I don't think I was even allowed to talk to him at the time. I used to just bow every time he came in the room. So yeah, he was scary looking. First time I saw him, me dio miedo, man. His eyes.
Yeah, Delbert was a college baseball player. He played on the national championship team at Phoenix College for the baseball fanatics. He was on a team with Gary Gentry, who went on to play with the New York Mets. Yep. And he was one of those, he was a pitcher on the national championship team. Just a tough guy. He was a good guy. I mean, I learned a lot from him. And yeah, if you got on a line, he would let you know with a stare. But going back to Richard, he jumped right in. He jumped right in, and I felt like I could take him in on a deal and not. I had no hesitation. I felt like we clicked right away, and I knew that I could trust him. Where there were some people, like I said, whether agents or Hell, we tried to work with the FBI. They tried to force the FBI on us for a short time to do some narc deals. And I was like, the FBI, we wanted them just stay 3 blocks away. I'm better off on myself. It was that bad.
Hey, Bobby, before he became a DEA agent, was he a cop somewhere? Was he in the military? Can you give us some background on him?
Yeah, he was he went to school at U of A, graduated from the University of Arizona, and then became a IRS auditor. Like he was doing audits at businesses, hotels, different places. So he was doing that with the thought that he was going to get some experience doing investigations and then eventually move over to DEA or one of the other federal agencies. So he cut his teeth with IRS.
Well, he did pick a good position if you're going to be DEA. Once you know how to follow the money, especially for the cartels and those, if you know where to look for the money, to those man.
Yes. And one of my funny stories with Richard, I mean, Saul talked about the buy bust. We did a buy bust where guys, it was a 3-kilo coke deal. So we were at 16th Street in Roosevelt, Saul, over at Kmart when Kmart was still there, and we meet these guys in the parking lot, and we see they had firearms on them. We could see them through their untucked shirts that would raise, and when the dope car showed up, we had done a flash at another location. The delivery car shows up. We do the transfer, and they're waiting for the money. Boom, we get hit. Well, when DEA and Phoenix narcs come screeching up in vans and guns are being drawn, 16th Street at Roosevelt is total paisa. So there happened to be some poor guy pushing a paleta cart, and he happened to walk right in between us when the bus went down. So when the guys jumped out of the cars and start pointing guns, the bad guys didn't even flinch. They looked like he can. And the poor guy with the paleta cart, he threw his hands up. He was the only one, and they thought that he was part of the deal. So they got taken down pretty hard, and we're yelling, no, not him, not him. And the guys that were the dealers, I mean, like I said, they didn't flinch, and they had to get taken down even harder because we're yelling, they got guns, and they got taken down. But it was the poor guy with the paleta cart. His cart went rolling down the street. We had to go bring it back, and he was shaking, and he peed himself. He got so scared. So we felt so bad for him because he just seemed like he was a little dude, little old viejito with his little cart. But we had like I said, when he came over, immediately he didn't hesitate taking lead in investigations, which I think once you start developing some confidence in your ability, you start doing that. Because, there's a lot of guys that will follow, but not him. He became a guy that started leading. And he also got to work quite a bit with Clark Simmons, who will be tomorrow's guest. Clark worked with us. I worked with Clark in, yes. Pobrecito, pobre vato. Clark Simmons, who will be our guest tomorrow, later ended up on the same task force. And Clark was a hustler. So him and Richie became pretty good friends and did a lot of work together as well. But so I'm sure he'll be able to cover some of that as well.
Hey, go ahead, Chano.
No, yours is more important. Go ahead.
No, it's not. You know what? Tell us about the empanada case, Saul. You mentioned it, and Benny sent me the picture. He goes, please ask him. So here we go with the empanadas. What happened on that, Saul?
I don't know. You know what? Those empanadas look like Korean yakimandu or something. They got meat in them, huh? No, I think the Bobby and him used to go out and get drunk on empanadas. So I don't know. I think he's the one that needs to tell the empanada story.
Right.
Right
before when Richard found out he was going to Monterrey, I was already back in patrol, but he lived right down the street from my house. So he would call me, hey, what are you doing? Because I was working nights. Hey, come on over. We're going to go grab a bite to eat. And we used to go to this place called El Nuevo Taquito. And anybody that knew Richard knew that no matter where you went, he would always ask if they had a hotter sauce than what they offered to the general public, because he always wanted something even hotter. And we're like, okay. So he comes over. He had to go get his physical because now he's getting ready to depart to Mexico within a month. He's going to be leaving. And he had just left the doctor's office, had his blood work done the week before. He walks into my house carrying a bag of empanadas because he used to always go to the same place and get the pumpkin, the calabaza, the empanadas de calabaza. And I go, hey, what's up? How did your doctor's visit go? He goes, well, the doctor said my weight started to climb, my blood pressure, my cholesterol. And he's telling me this, I'm thinking, oh, do you want to go eat somewhere healthy? and as I say that to him, he's taking a bite on this empanada. He goes, no, let's go to Nuevo Taquito. So we went over there, and he's laughing. And on one other trip, we went down to Tucson, and I think we actually went to Nogales on this deal. Nogales, Arizona. On the way back, we stopped in Tucson because there was a place that you could get the Sonora-style hot dogs. So we killed some hot dogs there. And then we went over to this panaderia, and we got like 12 empanadas. And, well, we're going to eat 1, 2, split it, take them home. Well, by the time we got to Phoenix, we had finished all of them. We're still digging in the bag, and they were all gone. So that's the empanada story.
Dang. You like empanadas.
Hey, go ahead, Chalo, Dispensa, when you had a question earlier.
I'm just like Mike Bristol there, Pobre Paletero, he's saying that he peed on himself. He got an ass whipping by his old lady when he showed up with pee in his pants, right? They probably thought he was drinking again. And he's telling the story of you guys doing this, and he's like, mentiroso. Nobody believed the poor man, probably.
I can't believe is that that place was so popular. And we were so damn tactical doing Bibles in that parking lot where so many different times. Oh my God, that was probably the worst place. I mean, to do a Bible, but there we were all the time. You couldn't tell the bad guys from the good guys, from the people shopping. The only good thing is the projects were nearby, so there was a few blacks that you could hide amongst.
It was all raza.
It was all raza, man.
Hey, Bobby, tell us the story. He was the one when you almost got into a shootout. The guy took a gun and remember you mentioned that story, and then you jumped out of the car and you did a double somersault. Can you tell us the story of what he did and how? Well, tell us the whole story of how that bus came and how he came basically to the rescue. Tell us about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, in that deal, I had already transferred out of NARCS, and I was in a unit called Special Projects. Special Projects, we did a lot of property deals. Ernie Moreno, who was still in NARCS, called and goes, hey, I got a snitch that says he wants to do a deal, but he wants someone that Ernie spoke Spanish, but he said, I think he needs somebody, the CI saying he wants someone that's maybe more fluent. So I went ahead and I said, yeah, I'll do it. So I asked my bosses, I went out. So we go out and meet that guy. And I met him in the parking lot at a Circle K. It was late at night. And like I said, back then we were cowboys. I had no backup. We would just roll, no backup, no cover, just by myself. So I showed up to the Circle K, and the bad guy walks up, and he was kind of very threatening, trying to intimidate me. Tells me, get in your car. I get in the car with the CI. We go around into the Garfield neighborhood, pull into a back parking lot of an apartment complex, and there's some other guys there. And he walks up to me, and right away looking for a wire on me. Sticks his hand on my chest, pushes his hand away. It pretty much tells me, if you're a cop or you're a snitch, you're gonna die, because I'm not going to jail. And very just threatening. And we're just talking about doing a heroin deal. I hit him up for a pound of heroin. He says, I can't do a pound. I could probably do 10 ounces. So now we fast forward. We're going to go do the deal. And I was using Ernie Moreno. He was going to be my money. He was going to be my backup, because the guy says, I only want to do business with you. He had only met me. I had only met him. Well, when we show up to do the deal at a parking lot in front of a Subway, a Walgreens, at nighttime, we pull up. he has a fucking bola de cabrones with him. He's got a bunch of dudes with him, and he wanted me to be by myself. But I wasn't stupid, so I brought over Ernie Moreno was in another car. We had a flash car in another location. So we show up, and right away he's mad that I brought Ernie, but he's got probably 3 guys with him, at least 3 guys. And just by luck, Saul and Richard, where I pulled up, there was a car next to me. I didn't even realize because I was so focused on these guys, because I showed up in my own car. Ernie Moreno showed up in another one, that Richard and Saul were in the car right next to me with dark tinted windows, and they were laying down in this. I think Saul, you were in front, Richard was in back, or vice versa. So they could hear our conversation, not through the body bug, but they could hear my voice because we're standing outside the car talking. And
hey, Bobby, before you continue, was everybody aware? Because I mean, that wasn't normal for a dude to be that aggressive when you're making an undercover buy, right? I mean,
right.
it's not normal. Was a guy from Zacatecas somewhere? I mean, it sounded like this guy. I mean, immediately, all the antennas went up when he started touching you. First of all, second of all, being as aggressive, not even passive, as aggressive as he was. So, Sal, is that the reason why you guys parked? Because you guys knew that this dude was dangerous? They're all dangerous, but this guy went to the next level.
I think that guy, that time Bobby ended up next to us really without knowing, but I could add something. And I know we discussed it, Bobby and I discussed it in the past. At the time, you could be dealing with some marijuana or some coke and the money huge, $90,000, big, huge flashes, things like that. But then you try to buy $30,000 worth of heroin, and for some reason, the negra dealers, the heroin dealers, they just always took it up another notch. For some reason, there was some sort of weird stigma about the heroin, and they were always.
Saul, could it be
that?
Saul, could it be the fact that maybe they figured that they would get more time in jail for heroin?
Yeah, I don't know what it was. It was the type of people or what. Maybe they were just more country. Maybe they were more knuckles than the other ones, but they were always those, and they were just always. There was always that much more. You could always sense that type of tension with the heroin, especially you went up, like Bobby said, you went up to around a pound, it was just weird like that. I think this guy though was a little nuts on top of it.
I think he was.
Oh, yeah. Really? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I think he was a little nuts. If I remember, I think he was either from Sinaloa or Michoacan. I don't really remember right now, but he was like some guy from La Sierra. So like those people they grew up in violent environments. Plus, I think the guy had a screw loose and just very threatening. And we look back now, we and Saul talk about it. Today, we would just take him off. We would take him off, screw the dope, just take him off. We already have a conspiracy. He had given me a sample of heroin. We already had him. But back then we were cowboys, plus he got my competitive spirit up, and I was like, oh yeah, well, you'll see. And so we show up to the parking lot, and of course he wants to see the money. He's demanding. You bring the money, and before we even got there, he wanted me to bring the money by myself, go to a house that he would pick out, and we would do, and I'd say, hey, why don't I pick a house and you bring the dope, and we'll do it that way. And he's like, oh, you piensas que soy loco, okay, well, that's what you're asking me to do, stupid. So we went back. It was just, I wanted to take this guy down so bad because, like I said, he got my competitive spirit up. Well, what happened is eventually we did a flash. I get to the car, and I was in his car. Okay, I opened the passenger side door, the front passenger side door. He tells me, get in the car, and he asked somebody, like some other guy that was watching, comes over with a key, opens the trunk of the car, pulls a bag out, and then he tells me, sit in the car. He gets behind the driver's wheel of his car. I get in the passenger seat of his car, and I just had a bad feeling, so I left the door open, and I put my leg out. My right leg was out, ready to jump out if I had to. And I look at the bag, open it up, and I think it was either 10 or 12 ounces of heroin. And I look it over, so I yelled to Ernie Moreno, hey, call for the money, which was going to be the bus signal. So Ernie puts the signal out, and now I'm trying to distract him, and he's got buddies standing outside covering. And that's where I said there was a mistake from one of the new cover guy or new guys from narcotics from across the parking lot. He got excited, and instead of being ninjas to sneak up, screw gun in people's ears and take them down, he started running across the parking lot. And it was nighttime, but it was a well-lit parking lot. Mm-hmm. He looked, didn't say a word, just looked at me like, you motherfucker. He looked at me, and he raised his shirt and started going for a handgun in his waistband. And I just got him right. He was wearing glasses. I hit him right between the eyes and broke his glasses, cut my hand, and then try to roll out. And that's where I stumbled over my feet. I like to say it was like a tactical down somersault.
A tuck and roll?
Yeah, tuck and roll, grab a gun from my ankle holster and ready to rock and roll. No, I slipped. I tripped, but I fell on my back. But I was able to pull my gun out. Mine was in the small of my back, so I was able to fall back. And all of a sudden, I hear all hell break loose on the passenger side, and it was Saul and Richard. And Richard had an MP5 in his ear, because when I popped him, he did this. And all of a sudden, he looked up, and they were there right on him.
Was the window down, Saul? Was his window down, or it was up?
His window was down, and when we got there, he was holding his face at the time. He was holding his face. But the surprise was when we get him out that he's got that gun in his waistband. Yeah. I said, that was the big surprise. And I'll add, I don't know, our arrest team was actually with Bobby Saul was the agent, the two officers running toward him. They were in a van. Of course, back then it was the old Trojan horse thing where the van slowly rolls in and they all get out. Well, the driver slammed on the brakes. It had to have been 100 yards away? I don't know, 50, more than about 80 yards away. Slams on the brakes, and he jumps out and takes off running toward Bobby. And another officer that was in the van, may have been the passenger, jumps out, and they both run. The rest of the arrest team had to figure out a way to get out of the van, and they had to also. So they didn't make the arrest. Yeah. Richard and I grabbed the guy. I don't remember what happened to the counter surveillance guys, though. That's one thing I don't remember.
The counter surveillance guys started running, and somebody fired a shot from down. But the neighborhood people are always shooting guns because maybe Mexico scored a goal in hockey or in soccer, and somebody cracked out some rounds por el tri. But somebody fired around from back, like on the backside, and I wasn't sure where it came from. And then once the counter guys, where the bad guys, noticed that it was a bus, they started running, and they just started taking people off. There was a car that was watching from further across. Instead of trying to ninja out, they squealed tires. They got taken off. And I just don't remember how many people we charged, but we got the dope. And like I said, now I look back, I think back, we were cowboys. We should have just had them taken off and it was over. But we want to take the risk and go out and do that. And like I said, Richard and Saul are right there. Johnny on the spot. Like I said, I just remember turning around, and I could hear the yelling and cussing and screaming on the other window, and I heard it in two languages, so I knew it was us. I didn't know they were next to me.
Hey, Saul, did you have enough time to open the door? Because usually they have the door locked, or did you have to yank them out the window?
I think we opened the door. I think we opened the door. I'm pretty sure we did, because I remember we took him down to the ground and we found that gun on him. I'm not sure. I think neither Richard or I had handcuffs on us. We had to just hold him down. I didn't think we didn't think we were going to be on the arrest side.
So how do you guys debrief that? I mean, were you guys able to go out there and smack some heads and say what the hell is wrong with you guys? I mean, you guys
get debrief ni nada, man. What do you mean? We debriefed it at UB's later.
Yeah, at the bar. We went to the bar.
That was just a bad time. There was no risk assessment. There was never any tactical teams. There was it was just one of the things that we just did it that way. It was just horrible. It was a horrible time. It was a really unsafe time, and a couple of us had some training. We learned about debriefing, but when we bring it up to the bureau, they would just laugh at us. They would just say, you're full of crap. You don't know what you're talking about, this type of stuff. And there was no debriefing. Whenever a bus got messed up that way, or there was a tactical issue, the undercover people would get angry and upset, and the sergeants would kind of just say, "Hey, well, that's if you think you're too if you're losing your edge, maybe you should go somewhere else," something like that. It was a really bad time. It was a bad time. Yeah, we didn't know any better.
I left I was in a different unit, so I didn't have to depend on narcotics to do my takedowns. I started at the other unit because I had the drug experience. I was working a lot with Richard. So I was Special Projects Phoenix PD working with Fass over at DEA. But when it came to takedown time, I started using Phoenix SWAT because I felt more comfortable. So after a while, the takedown teams that we were using, when I was at SIV Narcotics, the narcotics had too much pride to say, hey, we do our own takedowns, even though sometimes you're like, I'm surprised we never shot each other. Or like a one deal that Johnny Vasquez, he's a guest I'm going to have down the road here. We gave a bus signal and all our takedown team was on the wrong side of the railroad tracks.
Oh, shit.
So the number one sin, you don't ever want your undercovers to pull out guns because they could think they're being ripped. And it got to the point where Johnny and I had to pull out our guns and do a takedown on a 12-ounce heroin deal. That was another 12-ounce deal that we did because we were given the signal and nobody would show up. And we later joked. I said, I wish I could have had a flare gun and shoot a flare up in the air and go, hey, come get us, because nobody showed up. But they were all on the wrong side of the railroad tracks.
Hey, Bobby, you can only yell Rumpelstiltskin so many times, right? Until the guys.
Oh, no kidding. And it was like,
Rumpelstiltskin,
yeah.
What's wrong with this guy?
We start doing hand puppets.
Yeah.
Try to entertain the bad guy until it comes down.
Hey guys, all right. Okay, hey, where's the camera? Right? I mean, it's like
we thought the tactical way of doing things was doing it indoors and asking to use the restroom after we gave the bus signal. We'd be hiding in the bathroom when the guys came in to bust the door down. Usually you'd be standing in the hallway, standing somewhere, and the good guys would be coming in the back door and the front door at the same time, and you're right in the middle. That is the type of stuff that used to happen back then.
Hey, Bobby, so you guys didn't have any type of reports, tactical action report, nothing. It was all just a verbal, hey, you're going to stand by the 7-Eleven. When I raise my hand, when I give the word, well, you guys are listening, and all you had was a wire, and they were listening, and when the wire didn't work, what would happen?
Yeah.
We had secondary signals and stuff like that. We had a verbal and then a secondary visual. But still, much later, I started seeing things change. But I mean, by that time, I was almost gone. So
I'll tell you something about Clark Simmons. We had a couple of deals that we gave bus signals, audible stuff. Everyone was talking on the radio. Nobody heard it. It was a bad stuff. But Clark, we had this little thing. If it was his deal, I knew that if the bad guys, if the deal went bad and he gave the danger signal, I was just going to run over the guy, because we knew the sergeants would never make a decision to do something like that.
Really?
And it was the same thing. If it was my deal, I'd go to Clark. I said, Clark, you know that if things go to shit, you're gonna run over this guy. You're gonna take care of him, because we knew that the sergeants could not make a decision to take somebody off, to do something, to take somebody out like that. And don't dare pull out your gun because you'll get yelled at, you know. So that was the thing is, hey, I'll take care of this guy. You run over the other guy. You come over and kill that guy. That's what we had to do. It didn't matter that we briefed it a certain way. We had our own buddies that kind of knew, hey, if the shit hits the fan, he's going to run that way and I'm going to run over the guy. That's right. Just it. That's how bad it was. That's how really bad it was.
We trusted certain people. And like I said, if it'd be like, when you were on patrol, and if you're in patrol and you hear somebody that you work with, and if you hear them asking for another unit, you got to get there, because they don't ask for a unit all the time, and you can hear their voice, and it's almost the same thing. And like I said, I knew that because I knew Clark had a lot of experience in doing these type of cases. There were certain guys, and I was talking to my son the other day about, he had watched last week's show with Victor that we did on Ash Wednesday. And then, so I was kind of breaking it down to him. And one of the things I broke it down to him, I said, just remember that, because Victor mentioned it, just because you're in a specialty unit or you're in a group, some people don't work. I mean, that's just human nature. There's some people that are going to punch in and punch out. In a specialty unit that we worked, there was only a small group of guys that were actually doing these deals, and everybody else's support. Now, you need support staff. You need guys. I knew when I was on a squad that if I was calling for help on a buy bust, I knew there was going to be a certain group of guys that are going to be coming with anger and violence to come get my ass. But the problem we always had was some of the supervisors were kind of weak, and we needed some of the hit team to bypass then going, well, who's giving the signal? Are you sure it's Bobby giving the signal? And you hear other people, because I heard the recordings later. Yeah. Officers are saying, go, go, go. It's a bus. It's a bus. And a sergeant will be going, are you sure? And then we're like, you know what? Because when you're giving that signal, it seems like eternity while you're waiting for it. So another funny thing that just came to my mind with Richard, we're doing a deal. I don't remember. It was 2 or 3 keys of coke kind of deal. We're in a parking lot. So the bad guys show up. They had the dope in their car. I was driving a 454 Super Sport. That was my UC ride, the Chevy truck, the black one. So I grabbed a bag with the kilos of coke, stuck it inside the back, the tailgate of my truck. And so I don't know why the bad guy ended up close to on the driver's side of my truck. And when the team started moving in, everybody was concentrated over here. The bad guy jumped in my truck and drove off. He started driving off in my truck.
And the coke was in it?
And it was in the tail. It was in the bed. And I started having these visions that he was going to run into a bus full of school children on the way to church or something, And I was like, oh, my God. But there were primos. They were both about 5'2". They were little dudes from Sinaloa, and the truck kept going boom, 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 and finally got blocked in. And later on, when I interrogated him, he said that the seat was too far back for him, and he couldn't. That's what saved us, because the guy was only about 5'2". Yeah. And when he told us that, we and Richard were cracking up. We were really, we couldn't stop laughing.
Hey, Saul, if we would ask you to give us a story, a memorable, because you know what time is our worst enemy, and tomorrow we're going to be talking about Clark Simmons, talking about the day of the murder, the day of the incident. We're not going to touch on that, but tomorrow we will. But tell us just a story about him, something that you will always remember about Richard. Can you share with us something that you've never probably talked to anybody about, or definitely not on any podcast? But is there anything that you could share with us that people that are watching could say, man, what a solid dude? Is there a story you could share with us? And Bobby, I'll ask you the same one too.
Stepping up to help me on that Cochi Loco thing. It was one of those times where like I said, it was an awful place to work at the time. Our supervision was really bad. And it got to the point where if we started to do something creative, something big, they would start trying to find ways to put it down. And the thing that saved that deal to the point of us getting ready to take the guy down was the fact that Richard stepped up, did a bunch of research on the suspect, and tied him to that organization in Mexico. And it was just the timing, the weekend, and all that. And I remember telling him, bro, you didn't have to do all this, man. He said, why, man? This is good. He goes, and besides, once I mentioned Cochiloco, now DEA is all excited about it, because he was one of those guys. And it just that, the fact that it was a Friday afternoon, and we all know where the feds go on Fridays, and he took the time and showed up to the office. It was late, showed up to the office with this big file. And the next day we were out doing it, it was on a weekend. It was that type of a deal. That's just the kind of guy he was. And I know we were friends, and I know that had something to do with it, but still, that's, a lot of guys would just say, hey, Vato, just save it till Monday, let's go to the bar or something like that. But no, he was there. He did that. He took his time to do that. And like I said, that was the last time that we did anything close together. I do have one thing that maybe not talks about his personality, but that does stand out. And it is this side of him getting injured, of him getting hurt. And I think I mentioned it in a previous podcast, that the fact that he, Delbert Salazar, Johnny Vasquez, went to visit me at the hospital when I was injured. And for some reason, I have no memory of Richard being there. And Johnny and Delbert swore up and down that he was there, and of course he was there, and he signed the card. And I swore up and down that he wasn't. And I went and found the card, and his signature was on the card. And to this day, I have a memory of Johnny and everybody else being there, but not Richard. And it bothers me, still bothers me to this day, because that was actually the last time I saw him. Mm-hmm. I got out of the hospital May 29th, and he was murdered on June 30th. So that was that really bothers me, because that was the last time apparently that I saw him, and I don't remember him. And my closure was probably 6 years later. I went to the Arizona Fallen Officers Memorial and saw his name, and I think that was the first real closure that I had, because I missed the funeral because I was still, downing 4 Percocets every 6 hours and in a lot of pain at the time. I couldn't drive, and I was too stupid to ask somebody to come pick me up, Yeah. But that was that stands out. It doesn't speak about his personality, but it's something that has touched my heart about him, and I hope the Vato forgives me for not remembering that last time we were together.
Yeah. Wow, that's deep, man. Because you're laying there, you had just got shot. He responds, and a month later, after you got out, he is murdered. You know what? Without a doubt, brother, he loved you, and without a doubt, man, he knows. Yeah. Bobby, can you share with us a moment?
A follow up on what Saul says.
Yeah.
I remember Richard told me that he went to go see you with Delbert, and Delbert, his sense of humor, and cop humor, that he said, I don't know if you remember this, but you were probably out of it, but that Delbert told you, Saul, man, I don't know, you're never the most handsome person around with all the shotgun pellets in your face. God, this is going to be bad. But that's Delbert too, okay? the same thing with Richard. I was working a case. It was probably the last one, second to the last one, and I had a lieutenant that just he followed me to special projects, and they were allowing me to do deals. And he's like, "No, you're not doing a deal with DEA." He didn't like DEA just because he didn't like them, and he said, "No, you're not doing this deal." And I was working this case, and I already had brought Richard in, and the lieutenant says, "Nope, I forbid you from doing this with him." And I need to do it with him. I already was using Richard. They already knew him. And plus, DEA has the money to pay my source. You know, Phoenix would pay a source for a big hit, $300. That's it. So I remember we were talking about it, and we have to go do a meet. It was a weekend. Richard decided, hey, we could do it, but we decided, how can we do this? And we just made the command decision. I'm going to do the deal. We're just not going to let my department know I did it. And we're in agreement. So we went out, did the deal, got a multi-kilo coke deal. And I didn't tell that's why we're called the gray line behind the blue line, because I did the deal without telling anybody. Now, and I remember Richard says, I hope we don't get shot on this deal, because then they're going to find out you did it. And the funny thing is, probably the following day, one of the guys, Gil Soto, Jojo knew that I had done the deal, and I ran into him somewhere. And I guess by that time, Gil, I think he was a sergeant. He ran into Chief Click. Chief Click was a great guy too, and he happened to sit in a briefing and goes, "Wow, did you see that hit that DEA did over here on the west side with, they just thought it was a DEA deal." So
if it was your deal.
It was my deal. And Gil goes, "Hey, was that your deal, yours and Richard's?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, Chief Click was complimenting DEA for this good highlight that they did over on the west side." Well, that was a joint deal that we did. I just couldn't tell my bosses. I didn't do a report. I did a supplement, gave it to Richard, and Richard turned it in along with the DEA paperwork that they did. But that's how chicken shit some of the bosses we had. They just didn't want us to do deals with DEA, and we did great work with them. And like I said, so with Richard, it was like, hey, we'll figure out how to do this. We'll just do it, and we'll keep our mouth shut, and that's what we'll do. He made the command decision, and we both did, and we did it.
Hey, guys, man, that's another, I have very few regrets, but when I hear stories of people like of great men like Richard, I wish I would have met him. You know what I mean? Sometimes you hear stories, of legends like that we never got a chance to meet. But you guys were blessed to have worked with him, to have known him. And you know what, Sal? The story that you mentioned, that he went to your bed after you had been shot, dude, that is a blessing. And to have that card where he signed it and you know that he was there, that is a blessing. That, you know what? Yeah, you may not remember, but you know what? But he was there, and what a blessing. Guys, with that said, you know what? Time's against us, but I'm looking forward to tomorrow night. But before we leave, tell us about tomorrow's guest. Tomorrow we are going to talk to Clark Simmons. I'm going to put his picture up, Bobby, so you could talk about him. But he's going to tell us exactly what happened on that case. And I understand that he was there. He held him in his arms, right, Bobby? But you know what?
Right.
Tell us about him, and I'm going to post his picture up. He'll be with us tomorrow at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time on Ash Wednesday on the same channel, the Gray Line. Here we go, Bobby.
I reached out to Clark, and I remember he was there at the scene. And like I said, I reached out to Clark and says, hey, this is keep some of the legendary stories, legendary cops. And he cut me off immediately and said, hey, I'm no legend. But you know what? Clark can say he's no legend. Clark had a legendary career, even if he was not, part of this task force that happened to, where Richard tragically lost his life. Clark had a great career. He was a hustler. Saul and I both worked with him in Arce. We worked together in Gang Squad, and Clark ran a money laundering group at the tail end of his career when he got promoted. So looking forward to having him on tomorrow. He'll be up in northern Arizona, I think, hooking up with a Starlink internet, because he's going to be up in the woods doing mountain man stuff or whatever. He'll be calling in, and really looking forward to Clark Clark visiting us. Anything else, Saul?
What's that, Bobby?
Saul?
The wire's not
I said,
working.
anything else you want to add?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead,
Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, Clark. Bobby showed me a lot of stuff, but when I went to narcotics, Clark trained me in narcotics. He had preceded me by about a year and a half or so. But yeah, we were both there during a bad time. Clark wanted to do things, and the supervision didn't allow him to use his abilities. So we were there at a rough time, but Clark's the type of person that if you had a flat tire out in a snowstorm, he would get up in the middle of the night, come and hand you his shirt that he has on to keep you warm and change your tire for you. That's the kind of guy that Clark is. And he won't admit this, but he saved my life once. I mean, it legitimately saved my life, and he'll probably have to tell you guys about that.
Can you share with us what happened? Because you know what, I'm sure when we ask him, he's not going to talk about it because he's a humble man, right, Bobby?
Yes.
We had a supervisor that looked like the skipper from Gilligan's Island, and we were hitting this tweaker house, and there was a fan. There was a fan in the house that the ceiling was so low that the fan was about this high, you know. So I did the old, hey, watch your head, skipper. You know, thanks a lot, Gilligan. Well, the skipper heard me, and he sent me outside to search a truck that was out front. Well, there was a truck out there, and there was a female in the truck on the passenger side, and she was trapped in there because there was a rope all the way around the truck, wrapped around the door handle. She was tied in there. And when I walked up to her, she did one of these, and of course, my old walking beat instincts kicked in, and I dove in trying to choke her out, trying to let her not hope she didn't swallow dope on me. It was really dark. I had taken the tweaker flashlight from inside the house, and I was out there with this little tiny flashlight, which fell apart as soon as I hit her with it. And I hit her with the flashlight. And it looked like she was trying to unsheath one of them big tweaker Bowie knives, those big knives like that. So I got a hold of her hands, and I'm punching her and stuff. And I didn't know this, but Clark was on the driver's side. He was yelling at me. I don't know what he was yelling at me. Suddenly he reaches in with his gun and hits her on the hand. And what it was is she had again, super Black Hawk tweaker 44 Magnum, but her little hands, she was doing this, trying to reach the hammer on that thing. Mm-hmm. And it was pointed right at my face the whole time. And I didn't know Clark could see it. And then we asked her to get out of the vehicle through the window at that time. But I said, I said, holy crap. Yeah, he saved my life. She had pulled that hammer back. She had blown my head off with that thing. And they actually charged her with attempted murder. We went to trial, and she lost her mind in the middle of the trial, and they ruled 11 her. But yeah, he saved my life. Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm excited about tomorrow. It's going to be a great episode. Chalo, any last questions for Bobby and Saul?
No, just be watching the show tomorrow. Just continue part 2.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a great show, and saddened at the same time because I know the ending. But you know what? Like I said before, we are honoring a legend. We are honoring a hero, and we are honoring his family. Go ahead, Bobby. Any last words?
Last word, prayers to Betty's Jefecita. We're praying for her. It's Betty's mom, right?
Yes.
And so we're praying for her. And also, as always, Betty knocked it out of the park. When I heard the music, the theme song for Richard came from Richard's brother. We stayed in contact, and I told him, hey, what's a good song for him? And there's a funny story. Maybe I'll tell that story tomorrow.
Okay.
Where the song came from. But when I heard the song, it made me want to choke up.
Yeah, me too.
Great job, Benny.
Yeah. Saul, any last words, brother? Thank you.
No, you know what?
Appreciate it.
I'll see you on Sunday.
Yes.
And that's about it. it is a sad time.
It is.
It's a sad time for a lot of reasons, but yeah, I feel, it was fortunate that I got to know the man. That's all that matters. He's a vato suave, man. That's all. Yeah.
Thank you, Bobby. I'll see you tomorrow at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time on Ash Wednesday. God bless you. Thank you once again, Saul. God bless you.
God bless.
Thank you, guys.
God bless you.